Hey Trent, Dr. Whitmire. This is my last playing video for this semester. So on trombone, learned a lot. Yeah, it's been a crazy ride on trombone. I feel more comfortable with trombone. Trumpet, I used to play it, so I'm not too worried about that one. Trombone, in a nutshell. Kids have to have a good ear. It just has to happen. Bigger full lips like mine will be essential. A kid with maybe longer arms, which is not something that has to happen because I mean, of course, kids are gonna grow, but it does make getting down there a lot easier when you're getting to like sixth and seventh position. Um, so when we start, basically what I'm gonna do is we're gonna start doing some sirens on here, just kind of get my lips going for trombone because I played horn earlier, so I kind of want to make that transition. So, also what I want to start doing now is I want to do some articulation exercises for trombone because it's different on trombone because you have such a more wider space to work with. So you want to make sure you're a lot more accurate when you're placing your tongue in the right place. And with beginners and just in general, you want to place your tongue in between your where your gums and teeth meet at the top of your mouth. So do some tonguing. Also, another thing is I found that a good way to check tension in the neck is to roll your neck while you're buzzing because no matter what, buzzing should still happen. Your air should still be flowing no matter what position your neck is in. I mean, of course, the buzz will get, less focused, but it should be going all the way through. So this is a good way to check with beginners if they're not pushing air all the way through and if there's tension in the neck. So do that real quick. It's kind of the point, and you can walk by kids. Like one thing you would want to do is probably have make sections in rows. That way you can like not sections in rows, but like have like separate sections in rows that you can walk through, so you can be able to watch your kids and hear them buzz, and just being able to do this like and just moving at some point because kids just like to move. That's just what they like to do. Like they like to be active. Excuse me. They'll be more engaged in the activity, and this is a gross motor skill because moving your entire neck, so it's just something that older kids have a lot easier time doing. Also, another thing is I want to maybe get into some natural slurs because I get the concept, but it's still kind of like foreign in a way. Like I get it, like I understand the point and the way to facilitate natural slides, but the act of doing it is still weird to me. Natural slurs. I demonstrated was natural slurs, and for trombones, that's what they have to do because if you don't do natural slurs, you get this sound all the time. So you catch every note in between where you're trying to go. So from point A to point B, you're getting like 8.1, 8.2, blah, 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 all the way to B. And you don't want that. You want it clear, clean, just note to note. So you want to, instead of, you want, and that's a lot cleaner than the first way that I did it. Another thing is just maintenance and making sure that this slide is very greased up and maintenance of the slide is good because the slide part of the trombone is very light. The metal is very flexible. It's easily bent, so you want to, and kids, it's just gonna happen. It's just one of those things like the side gets slightly bent and they just don't even realize it. And the longer that they play on it and it gets worse, the harder it'll be to fix it and the longer it'll have to be in the shop. So something you want to just stress is just to be careful with their tuning slide. Not the tuning slide, the major slide on the horn. So that's all they need to be aware of. Also, trombone mouthpiece. Well, fitting kids for trombone and just low brass in general. It all depends on the kids. Especially for trombone, I think you have to consider, is it feasibly possible for this student, to get this instrument? And I think trombones are pretty cheap. I mean, they use less metal. They're a lot cheaper than other instruments like clarinet, like less maintenance. They require less maintenance than woodwinds do. So, that makes things a little easier on parents having to buy reed after reed after reed. So when you're doing trombone and you're doing low brass, like placing students on these instruments, consider the feasibility of these instruments for these students. And I know most places they have their own tubas and euphoniums, and sometimes just baritones, and that's fine. But I mean, you just have to still consider what's feasibly possible for your students, and that just comes from knowing your students and getting a little background. When you talk to parents, and just give them some prices and let them know, like, hey, this is kind of what it's going to look like. If we do this, is this possible? I just want to make sure that little Johnny has a good band experience, and I wouldn't want to be ruined just by not being able to afford an instrument. And last but not least, I want to talk about inheriting. I'm sorry, I'm not feeling well. I'm sorry. Inheriting weak players. So I think it depends on how long they've been weak players. I guess you can kind of categorize it that way. I feel like if they've been weak players for a long time, it's gonna be hard. Well, I wouldn't feel like it will be hard to fix the issues that they're having. Like such as having like weak tones, bad posture, not clean articulation. Little things like that can add up to a lot of problems that are so hard for us to fix because sometimes they're just set in their ways. Depending on the age group, they don't want to change. They think everything's fine. Their ears aren't as developed the way our ears are developed. They don't have sometimes they may not just have a concept of what a good sound is because they've never been exposed to that. So one thing with inheriting good players is to get a good concept of any instrument that you're teaching in front of them and in their ears. Maybe pull up a recording of this nice trombone solo being played or anything like that, or horn solo, anything really. As long as it's a good professional sound and it's the sound concept that you deem appropriate for your students, which should be of the professional level at all times, I think it'll be fine. Most people don't listen to music on their own instrument. It just doesn't happen nowadays. It doesn't happen. People don't look up, oh, this horn concerto here, this trombone solo here, little things like that, and they don't have a good concept of what a good trombone sounds like. So getting that in your students' ears as soon as possible is a good way to do that. As far as articulation goes, take some time and just redefine what it means to articulate. Maybe get a group exercise going where they can maybe match articulation to the person next to them. That's a good way to do it. Also, model the articulation that you want. If you want an accent, just maybe bust out your primary instrument or however you want to do it. It just gives them a good concept of what a clean articulation sounds like. So legato, just clean diphthong. Just anything that you deem necessary to teach at that point regarding to articulation. Also, style, matching styles. Maybe have your principal player in whatever section you need to match that style. Have them play, hey, such and such, play these measures, and just listening to the sounds. Like, do you hear how he's playing that? I want you to play it the exact same way. And then that usually kind of gets like that. You're like, oh, okay, I need to like open my ears a little bit. Or simply just saying, hey, make sure you get your ears to the principal player. That kind of makes them aware of like, okay, I need to open my ears up a little bit more. Making their tones more mature. I think to make tones more mature, you need to mature their ears as well. Like I said earlier, you need to get a good concept of what a good sound is in their ear. But also, it can just be technical things, like little technical things such as their teeth being too far together. Maybe it's their jaw not being long enough. Maybe it's their tongue's in the wrong place. Maybe their posture's bad. You know, little things like that. Maybe the aperture is too small. Maybe they're pressing, using pressure, things like that. And those are just 5 brass remedies, just brass specifically, that can really fix a player's sound. And like I said, depending on the age group or how long they've had these issues, those problems will be a lot harder to break. It's something that it's a reality that's becoming more apparent. It's a reality that I think we need to face, that you might not get the best players all the time, but it is possible to make better players. And I think that's our job, is to not make the perfect player, because I mean no one's perfect in any aspect, but I think it's our job to make them as good as they can be with what we're able to do. And what we should be able to do is the best of what we know how. So that's how I feel about new players. Now, if you start these players out, then they should be able to meet your expectations. And from a sound concept, from an articulation standpoint, from a posture standpoint, from any standpoint that you're setting for yourself, this is what I want my ensemble to have, this is what they need to sound like, those beginners need to sound like your beginners. They're yours. They're your children, in a way, as far as I showed them how to play their instruments from day one. So there's that as well. Yeah. So as far as inheriting new players, that's pretty much all I can really think about at this time. Yeah. Sorry, I'm having a good time. That's pretty much it for my playing video. Thank you guys for a wonderful semester. I'll see you next semester.